This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the best all-in-one platform for any of your website building needs. Hey guys, it's Celestia, and today we're going to be talking about art niches. More specifically, whether or not you need to find one to succeed as an artist, how to find yours, and the pros and cons associated with being either a specialist or a generalist in your art career. An art niche, for anyone unfamiliar, is a specific field or subtype of art that an artist specializes in. This can be as broad as painting traditional realistic portraits, or as specific as digitally drawing semi-realistic anime-esque furry art with a focus on canine characters and neon color palettes. Whatever it is, the bottom line is that it's more specific than just a style. 5 different artists working in a realistic style could have 5 different niches, with some known for doing the best pet portraits in the land, others known for their expertly painted landscapes, and others still who paint exclusively geese in varyingly ridiculous settings. It's a specialty that sets them apart from others who work with similar styles, something that's naturally viewed as quite desirable as a result. After all, most artists want to stand out from their peers if they want to establish themselves, whether that be as professionals in the industry, freelancers, or even just hobbyists hoping to build a following. Finding your niche as an artist is something that's been widely encouraged as a priority for a long time now, and for good reason. Many feel that polishing a specific set of skills that establishes you as an expert in your particular artistic niche is more valuable than developing intermediate but more well-rounded skills at everything, which allows you to become a jack of all trades but master of none. But regardless of what art circles you're running in, be that as an industry professional, a freelancer, a social media art influencer, or a hobbyist, there's no shortage of debate surrounding the legitimacy of that advice. Industry artists have argued for years over whether it's better to be a generalist or a specialist, whether you should hone your skills as a sci-fi fantasy concept artist that's renowned as an expert at that job but no other, for example, or develop a well-rounded skill set that allows you to do adequate good work in any field from illustration to concept art to 3D modeling, but not excel or stand out to a noteworthy degree within any of them. Similarly, artists focus more on building a social media following or getting commission work online face the same dilemma, wondering whether it's better for them to be pretty good at drawing any style or subject matter, or really good and well known at drawing one thing in particular. It's the difference between 2 artists who draw in an anime style, with one drawing everything from OC character sheets to cute pop art headshots to fully rendered illustrations with detailed backgrounds, definitely not calling myself out as a generalist, and the other specifically drawing fan art of an individual series or exclusively drawing furry adoptables or something along those lines. It's not a debate that's limited to artists either. I mean, the decision to specialize or be a jack of all trades is one that people in a variety of fields struggle to make. Like, for example, a doctor deciding between becoming a general practitioner or a cardiologist. It's such a long-standing point of contention because both sides present significant pros and cons. Specializing in a niche allows you to become invaluable in your field as an expert that's trusted to deliver work of the highest caliber, but it limits you to only ever being able to pursue that particular type of work. Developing a well-rounded generalized skill set allows you to do any job reasonably well, setting you up for a flexible and versatile variety of options to pursue throughout your career, but without allowing you to stand out as particularly good at any of them. There are so many positives and negatives associated with both that it's really no surprise that there's so much debate amongst artists as to whether or not finding your niche and committing to it is important and beneficial, or overrated and potentially limiting. So in today's video, we're going to discuss the benefits and downsides of both, because in my opinion, whether an individual artist should become a generalist or a specialist depends entirely on which of those benefits appeal to them and which of those downsides don't. And the answer is going to be different for everyone as a result. But first, let me take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Squarespace, a longtime partner of the channel. I always say that longtime viewers of the channel know Squarespace by now because of how often I gush about them here, but apparently I've actually gushed about them so much that when a video starts without a Squarespace segment, you guys comment in concern. And good, honestly. I'm glad it's not a true Duchess Celestia video to you guys without a Squarespace segment, because I genuinely believe that they're the best website building and hosting platform out there. I know, because I've spent years using them to create and proudly host both my personal Duchess Celestia portfolio site and the site for my art studio, Royal Starship Studios. Their templates were what drew me in first, because it took pretty much no time at all to browse Squarespace's extensive library of them to find the perfect one for each of them. You can easily filter your template search based on what kind of site you want to build, so whether you want to make a gorgeous portfolio, an online store, a blog to share your thoughts, a landing page for your business, or absolutely anything else, there is a template waiting for you that can bring that to life. And it's easier than ever to edit them with Fluid Engine, Squarespace's next-generation editing system that lets you customize every aspect of your site with its smooth, user-friendly drag-and-drop interface. Once you've tailored every part of your site to meet your needs, you can even turn it into an online store just as seamlessly, with versatile tools that allow you to sell everything from physical goods to digital content. Squarespace makes that even easier by offering a wide array of payment options for your customers, letting them pay with everything from credit cards to PayPal and Apple Pay, and in eligible countries even utilize flexible long-term payment alternatives like Afterpay and ClearPay. The tools don't end there either, with SEO options designed to get your site to reach as many eyes as possible, visual design tools that help you build brand recognition, social media account connectivity, and so much more. Squarespace has tools to make every step of the web design and hosting process easy. And you can find out yourself by going to squarespace.com/DuchessCelestia, linked in the description, and use code DuchessCelestia for 10% off your first domain purchase. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video, and please go check them out. All that out of the way, let's get into the video. Before I start breaking down the pros and cons of finding and committing to an art niche, I want to make one important distinction. Art niches and art styles are two very related but very different things. Like I said, 5 artists with the same style, at least in broad terms like realism or semi-realism or anime, could all have unique niches within that style. People often lump art niches and art styles together like they're the same, and I do understand why. Both of them are ways for an artist to stand out. As I mentioned already, the biggest priority for any artist looking to establish themselves is to find as many ways as they can to set themselves apart from their peers. And both styles and niches are ways to build that recognizability. An art niche pertains largely to what you draw, while an art style pertains to how you draw it. So a unique art style makes your work recognizable no matter what you draw, and a unique art niche makes your work recognizable no matter how you draw it, albeit for different reasons. As a result, they often go hand in hand, but they are, importantly, two very different things that can exist independently from one another even when they work best together. You can have a unique art style while being a generalist without an art niche, and you can be a specialist with a niche that has a fairly generic art style. Having a unique style within a unique niche gives you an extra level of desirability and recognizability, but it's not necessary to have a unique style to benefit from having a unique niche. So while I do have an upcoming video about the benefits of finding your own unique art style and some ways to help that process along, I'm going to limit the amount of discussion of style in this video as much as possible and save it for that one, despite it being very interrelated with niches, because while they are related, the value of each should be, in my opinion, determined independently. Moving on, let's first talk about why finding an art niche can be so conflicting as a concept in the first place. If you're an artist, no matter what style you work in, there are inevitably going to be hundreds of thousands of other artists who work in the same one. And whether you're looking for engagement, followers, interaction, commissions, freelance work, or an industry job, that means you're in direct competition with them whether you like it or not. And style alone, while it might help if it's unique, isn't enough on its own to set you apart. There are a million artists that have well-rounded enough skills to draw anything pretty well, but there are vastly fewer that can draw one thing really, really, really well, to the point that their competition becomes limited exclusively to the very few others who can draw it just as well. And that's an appealing position to be in, which is why so many artists find themselves conflicted. On one hand, developing all of our skills evenly allows us the freedom to draw whatever we want, whenever we want. So whether we want to draw concept art of our OCs, or fully rendered illustrations with complex compositions and backgrounds, or chibis of cats, or fan art of our favorite characters, we can do that. Not perfectly, but passably. Not only do we have the freedom to draw what we want, we have the freedom to do any job we want. We can take commissions of any kind, we can work as concept artists, animators, illustrators, merch designers, character designers, whatever. We have the skills and relevant experience to do any of those jobs adequately, even if not exceptionally. So even when we recognize the many benefits of focusing on one skill set, type of subject matter, and field of expertise in particular when it comes to building names for ourselves and directing our careers, it can be incredibly scary to think of sacrificing the freedom that comes from being a generalist or a jack of all trades. What if we end up getting sick of our niche? What if we miss drawing a wider range of subject matter and doing a wider range of jobs? They're valid concerns, and if those are questions you're asking yourself now as a generalist artist unsure about where to go from here, I think what's most important is to consider the possible positives and negatives that each option presents, so that you can decide which one suits you as an individual best. In my opinion, whether you're better suited to being a generalist or a specialist depends largely on who you are as a person, what your priorities are when it comes to your craft and your career, and what you enjoy about art. So there's no one-size-fits-all answer for everyone. The best I can do is give you a better picture of what both options might look like for you. Before we go into the pros and cons of each to do so, though, let me paint you a picture with my mediocre generalist skills of what generalists and specialists look like in a practical sense. Let's first look at generalists. When it comes to industry professionals, these are artists who have experience working in a variety of different positions within their field, whose value to employers is less in the quality of their work and more in its versatility and their ability to do a multitude of different jobs that would ordinarily have been given to several different specialists. Generalists in the industry are primarily desirable to smaller studios with lower budgets because they're a cost-effective way to assign multiple jobs to one person rather than hiring multiple. If you're making a game and you need a character designer, an environment designer, a prop designer, and a splash artist, but you can only afford to hire one person, you're going to be more inclined to hire an artist that has experience doing all 4 jobs, even if they don't do particularly exceptional work in any of those roles. Larger studios with bigger budgets will be more inclined to hire specialists because they can afford to employ entire teams to do those jobs. And if they can afford to hire an artist to do each individual job they need done, it no longer matters to them if each artist can do each other's jobs. They don't need their concept artists to be able to deliver fully rendered promotional illustrations. They need them to be the best they can be at creating unique, readable, interesting, and recognizable character designs. As a result, generalists don't really appeal to a lot of higher budget employers because it doesn't matter to them that they can do a lot of jobs pretty well if they're able to hire a bunch of people that can do each of those jobs really well. Essentially, in industry work, the value of a generalist is not in the quality of their work, but their ability to do a wide range of it, quantity over quality. That's not dissimilar to the state of things for freelance generalists either. For artists whose priority is building a following online, taking commissions, selling merch, and similar venues of income, though, I would argue that there's even less value in being a jack of all trades. In an industry setting, a generalist has value because the studio needs a multitude of jobs done and only has the budget to pay one artist to do them. But for individual clients, that value is completely lost. In most cases, a client isn't looking for an artist that can draw a bunch of different things. They're looking to hire you for one thing and one thing alone. If they're looking to commission an artist to draw their furry OC, they don't care if the artist they're hiring can also draw really good Gundams or really cute anime girls or literally anything that doesn't pertain to the exact thing they want them to draw for them. It would make no difference to them if you could draw none of those things. If what they want is art of their furry OC, then choosing between an artist that can draw anything pretty well, including furries, and an artist that specializes in furry art and is known for drawing specifically that, it's such an obvious choice that it's almost no choice at all. Your clients, as a freelance, commission-based artist, aren't interested, in most cases, in hiring you to draw a bunch of different things, so your ability to do so has no value to them. Style and the development of a trustworthy reputation can help make up for that, in fairness, because if they want a specific thing drawn and they have to choose between an artist that specializes in that thing and a jack of all trades, they may be influenced to choose the latter even when the former has more experience and skill if they prefer the latter's style, or the latter has such a trustworthy or prominent reputation within the community that there's novelty in having a commission from them based on that alone. But without those added pieces of value, most generalists on the freelance end of things have to compensate by lowering their prices. If clients would rather hire a specialist in a niche, charge less than those specialists. So, once again, generalists are forced into a box of having their value defined by quantity rather than quality, as they then rely on getting a lot of commissions with lower prices, while specialists rely on getting fewer commissions with higher prices. On that note, specialists, as you may have expected, tend to have the opposite experience in both settings because of the reversal of that value. For generalists, their work has value based on quantity and not quality, as we've established, so while they're forced to work for less, that work is far from scarce. For specialists, their work has value based on quality and not quantity, so they're able to charge significantly more, but also have less professional opportunities depending on the popularity of their niche. In an industry setting, specialists tend to land higher paying positions based on their value as experts at their roles, and can more easily build trust and positive reputations in those professional circles. That said, they may also find less job opportunities as the demand for their particular specialty is liable to fluctuate, and their job security is subsequently at the mercy of the state of the industry to a much higher degree than a generalist would be. On the freelance end of things, specialists face a similar set of circumstances. Within their niche, they're able to more effectively establish themselves as reputable, trustworthy, respected, and well-liked. After all, it's easier to be the biggest fish in a pond than the ocean, and the smaller the niche, the easier it is to stand out from your peers. Furthermore, as I mentioned, when a client wants to commission someone to draw something specific, they're going to be drawn more to someone who specializes in drawing that thing than someone who can, but doesn't exclusively, and isn't amazing at it. Going back to that previous example, someone looking to get their furry OC drawn would then be much more likely to hire a furry artist than a generalist artist who can draw furries, putting the specialist in a much more favorable position. Specialists will always have the advantage over generalists when it comes to getting commissions within their niche, meaning they're able to charge more for commissions with the knowledge that people are willing to pay for the expertise that they have that the competition doesn't. But while they are likely to get more higher paying commissions within their niche, they're not likely to get any commissions outside of it. While a generalist could get commissions drawing furries, mechs, animals, OCs, and fan art, a furry artist is really only going to get commissions drawing furries, and furry OCs, at least for the most part. So while they benefit from higher paying clients within their niche that are more likely to choose them over the competition, they're limited largely, and with some exceptions, to only those clients. Quality over quantity, again. Now, for some of you, those may be the only pros and cons you need to make your decision between generalist and specialist. After all, if the primary difference between them comes down to whether a client prioritizes quality over quantity, you can pretty easily base your decision on which one you prefer to deliver. For some, it may be more valuable to get a lot of lower paying work than infrequent higher paying work, or vice versa. So whether or not an art niche is the right call for them may be entirely based on that. But for those of you who are still torn, now that we've established what each option would likely look like in practical application, let's dive a little deeper into the pros and cons of each, more focusing on the freelance side than the industry, since the biggest industry-related points have already been addressed. Basically, I'm gonna sell you the idea of finding an art niche like a bad used car salesman, and then warn you against the idea like a cautionary Yelp review of the car I just tried to sell you, and then you can decide whether or not you want to buy it. As we've already established, there are a lot of benefits to finding your art niche on a practical level. It allows you to build familiarity, trust, and recognition within a particular community more easily than you could have within the wider art community simply by way of it being smaller and more closely knit. The smaller the niche, the easier it is to establish yourself. It's easier to be the best artist in a room of 100 people than 10,000, and it's easier to be recognized in a community of 100 people than 10,000. The fewer people there are to know you, the easier it is to become well known, and the more well known you are, the more clients and opportunities will become available to you. There's also the potential for repeat customers as a result of that familiarity and trust. Niche clients tend to favor artists that they know are reliable and have proven through experience that they can deliver high-quality work within that niche, and are very likely to return to the same one for future commissions of similar subject matter. The personal value of the social difference in smaller communities is worth noting too. Becoming a part of a smaller niche within the larger art community allows you to form friendships within it more easily than you could without that shared interest in whatever subject matter you specialize in, helping you find and connect with other like-minded artists and peers. That may not have any professional or financial value to you beyond potential networking, but the personal and emotional significance is still important to consider. Another pro of finding a niche as an artist is benefiting from its existing audience. Potential clients and followers don't have to be interested in you or your individual art style to be interested in the subject matter of your art. So if you're an artist with a niche, you can draw on interest in that niche instead. Get people's attention with the subject matter of your niche, and then once they're paying attention, get them interested in you as an artist, and build a foundation for yourself with the advantage of having what's effectively a hook and a head start. Let's say 100 people are going to look at a piece of art, and only 10 of them are going to care about the style or skill level of the artist, while the other 90 only care about the subject matter. That means that while generalists' work only appeals to 10, specialists drawing the subject matter in question appeal to both those 10 and the other 90. Finally, there are pros to finding your art niche that have nothing to do with clients, following, or professional success, too. If you've ended up in an art niche, it's probably pretty likely that it's because you like the niche. Again, an art niche is defined by subject matter more than art itself, so commitment to an art niche is usually the result of passion and love for a certain subject. Most botanical artists love nature, most pet portrait painters love animals, most fan artists of a certain fandom love the media their work is based on, and so on. Committing to an art niche that's based on something you're passionate about means getting to engage with something you love creatively on a regular, consistent basis. If it's something you love, it's usually going to end up being something you love drawing by way of that alone. Similarly to how potential clients and followers may end up supporting you just because they like the thing you're drawing, even if they wouldn't otherwise have been interested in you or your art, you may end up enjoying drawing more than you would have otherwise because you're drawing a thing you like. I sincerely disagree with people who say if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, because I'm an artist doing what I love, and can confidently say that it has absolutely felt like work for many days in my life so far. That said, I do believe in a much more reasonably toned down alternative, that the more you love what you do, the more you'll enjoy your work. And by finding and committing to a niche in your art, you're ensuring that no matter what work you do, it's work you're inclined to enjoy by nature of what it is alone. Furthermore, because you'll be drawing the type of work typical of that niche all the time, you'll end up honing the skills required to draw it so much that doing so will eventually just come naturally to you. While artists who work within a certain niche may end up neglecting skills not required of it, something I'll get into more in a second here, they also end up perfecting the ones that are required of it more than they would have otherwise. A character concept artist may not end up developing the skills required to expertly render a complex illustration illustration with a full background as well as even a generalist would. But their understanding of anatomy, form, gesture, and design would be so well honed by comparison that not only would they be able to create much more compelling, intriguing, visually appealing character design sheets than a generalist, it would come so much more quickly and easily to them and require so much less time and energy. The more you practice one particular thing, the better you get at it and the easier it is for you to do it. That leads to more confidence, more comfortability, and in most cases, less burnout. But this pro does double as our first con, because that unbalanced practicing of some skills and neglect of others is a double-edged sword. Drawing exclusively in an art niche may leave you with expert level skills in some areas, but severely underdeveloped skills in others. If all you ever want to draw is that niche and you therefore have no use for those other skills, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like that hypothetical character concept artist from the previous example. If they don't enjoy drawing backgrounds or creating fully rendered pieces and have no need to do so in their professional work, the fact that they haven't developed the skills required to do so and are subsequently unable to doesn't really hinder them in any way. But if they, be it for professional or personal reasons, decided that they did want to draw more than just the work required of character design, they would then be disproportionately inexperienced and unprepared to do so. If you only ever draw the same thing over and over in the same way, you will get exceptionally good at it, but your ability to draw anything else any other way will either not develop or eventually stagnate and diminish, assuming you don't deliberately set aside time independent from your work to practice them, which is, by the way, something you should do, in my opinion. It's not just the things that you don't draw because of your niche that might negatively impact you though, but also the things you do draw. As I mentioned earlier, committing to an art niche is usually done out of love for the subject matter definitive of the niche, and while that was presented as a pro before, I'm now going to recontextualize it as a potential con. Like I said, bad salesman first, Yelp review second. Getting to draw something you love all the time might be awesome, and it might make you love drawing even more because you get to draw that thing. But it might also make you sick of drawing that thing if it's all you ever get to draw. In the same way that some advise you not to make art your job if it's your passion, because the constant exposure to it in both personal and professional settings drains it of its novelty to you, committing to drawing only one particular thing out of love for it might mean risking being so surrounded and inundated by that thing that you get sick of it. Too much of any good thing is a bad thing, and most people aren't really built for complete repetition all the time. Drawing the same thing the same way over and over without any variation may very well get boring and dull in time, and risking losing your love for something because you burnt that love out by drawing it to death does kind of come with the territory of committing to an art niche, at least a particularly specific one. The final con of finding and committing to an art niche is closely related to that, and it's that once you've done so, it's very difficult to leave. Even if you do end up burning yourself out and getting sick of drawing whatever it is you've picked as your niche as a result of drawing it so frequently, it's not like you can just switch to another one seamlessly. The longer you spend establishing yourself in an art niche, the harder it becomes to be known for anything beyond your reputation within it. Whether that's in an industry setting where you end up with exclusively experience in one job, leaving you unqualified for anything else, or an independent setting where you end up with followers and clients that are only interested in the work that you do in that niche. You're ultimately building a foundation that doesn't translate to other fields. Your illustration portfolio does not qualify you for concept art positions, so while working as an illustrator will absolutely help you build an exceptional portfolio full of impressive examples within your field, none of those examples will qualify you for work outside of it. Working as a furry or chibi artist will leave you with an impressive portfolio qualifying you for furry or chibi commissions, but not much else. Your fan art will build you a following of people who love the subject matter you're drawing and will support you to see more of it, but will largely only stay so long as you continue to draw that subject matter. If you suddenly start drawing something else, only those of them that grew attached to you as an artist after being drawn in by your niche's subject matter will stick around, while the vast majority will be likely to leave. All of this combined means that the longer you spend committed to one niche in particular, the more irreversibly you cement yourself within it. If you want to start doing jobs outside of it, you won't have the relevant experience necessary to qualify you to. If you want to start drawing and posting art outside of it on social media, your engagement will likely drop significantly, and you may even risk losing a notable portion of the audience that you've already built, because the vast majority of them are more interested in what you draw, or used to draw, than your art itself. It's easier to build that audience when you're drawing from their interest in your niche, but the downside of it being easier is that because you didn't get their interest based on you or your art, you won't keep it based on you or your art either in most cases, and you're dependent on consistently remaining within that niche if you don't want to lose it. So we've gone over what professional work might look like for both generalists and specialists in different settings, and the unique pros and cons each are likely to face as a result of their choice between the two. For some of you, that will hopefully have been enough to help you make the decision that's right for you based on your individual needs and priorities, because unfortunately that's really the best I can offer. Like I've said already, whether or not finding and committing to an art niche is the right call, is entirely dependent on each individual artist's specific preferences, goals, and work style, which means there's no one right answer for everyone. There are a lot of really positive benefits to finding an art niche that you sincerely enjoy, both for your professional success and your emotional and creative fulfillment as an artist. But there are also a lot of downsides that might leave you feeling stuck, pigeonholed, and trapped in a creative box without any easy way to pivot into another niche that you might enjoy more, or even return to being a generalist. Ultimately, whatever you choose, that decision isn't a permanent one. It may be difficult to leave an art niche and re-establish yourself in another one, but it's not impossible. Similarly, no matter how long you've been a generalist, it's never too late to start examining what kind of art you enjoy creating the most and experiment with focusing on that as your niche. And that brings me to the only real piece of advice that I can give everyone: experiment. Personally, I think that every artist should start out as a generalist without a niche, because it allows them the freedom to experiment with each different niche that they might be interested in without committing to any of them. If you're not sure what direction you want to go in, try everything. If you want to work in the industry, try making concept art, try making splash art and illustrations, try making prop and environment designs, try 3D modeling, try storyboarding. Try out every role in the industry that you think you might enjoy. You don't have to apply for and get jobs in those positions to practice the kind of work that you'd be doing on your own if you did. You can just practice it on your own and see if you enjoy it before seeking actual employment and seeing if you still like it then. And once you do try out the roles that you like most in a professional setting, you will have built a well-rounded portfolio as a generalist and narrowed down which jobs you've tried so far that you enjoy the most, so that you can, if you want, become a specialist by focusing on those ones alone. That way, you'll know in advance that the niche you've chosen is one that suits your work preferences. If you want to work as a freelance artist online, it's even easier, because all you have to do as a generalist starting out is just draw the things you enjoy and figure out which ones you enjoy the most. Join different niche communities within the wider art community and find the ones that you feel the most comfortable in and passionate about. Take different types of commissions to see which ones you have the most fun drawing. Contribute fan art to different fandoms to see if you enjoy any individual one enough to commit to it as a dedicated fan artist. Draw different types of subject matter to see if any one subject comes so easily and naturally to you that you feel like you could draw it forever. I personally believe you should experiment with everything you enjoy about art and everything you're interested in before committing to any individual niche. Because again, while committing to a niche isn't irreversibly permanent, it is incredibly difficult to pivot away from one once you've established yourself within it. So if you're going to make that commitment, you're going to want to be as sure as you can be that it's one that you're going to enjoy doing for a long time without burning out, losing interest, or getting bored. Picking a niche based on a passing interest or what's currently trendy or popular might leave you getting sick of it much more quickly than you'd think, and then you'll either have to keep doing primarily work that you don't enjoy, or start over in another niche, or back as a generalist without the majority of the audience or clients that you built up there. I would also say that it's worth considering the specificity of your niche. If you're someone who gets sick of drawing similar things over and over again fairly easily, having an overly specific niche might not be the right move for you, but that doesn't mean you can't have a niche at all. There are people who exclusively draw oil-painted portraits of cats as a niche, and there are people who draw flowers and plants as a niche. They're both niches, but one is very specific while the other is much broader, with the latter allowing you much more freedom to expand upon what you can actually draw while still drawing within the niche. I also want to mention before concluding the video that the art that you create isn't necessarily limited to the art niche you choose, if you do choose one. It may be what you draw primarily for work and to post, but that doesn't mean it's all you can ever draw on your own time for personal reasons. If you're a concept artist, you can still make illustrations in your spare time for your own enjoyment's sake, as well as to practice your other artistic skills that may otherwise be underutilized by your niche-related work. And you can even post those illustrations and include them in another section of your portfolio to further bolster your professional legitimacy by showing versatility and technical skill in addition to your expertise within your niche. If you're a freelance artist, the art that you make outside of your niche can still be posted and shared, and it can even help you convert members of your audience that were previously only interested in your niche to also be interested in the rest of your art itself. So long as you continue to post primarily art that does fall within your niche, the other art you post that doesn't almost serves as supplementary content in and of itself, even for your niche audience. The general ratio I would recommend is to post 75 to 90% niche-related art and 10 to 25% unrelated art that you've made for your own enjoyment's sake. The biggest thing that scares off followers within your niche is the idea that because you've just posted some art that's unrelated to it, you're moving away from that niche and starting to stop drawing within it, which will then lead them to lose interest. By maintaining a ratio of mostly niche-related art with regular, consistent, but less frequent unrelated art, you teach your audience that the unrelated art isn't a threat to the niche-related art. They know to expect it from you sometimes. sometimes, but that its presence doesn't indicate that you're leaving your niche. And that even if they're not interested in the unrelated art, more niche art is still coming afterwards regardless of it. That means that you'll keep the following you built on the niche alone that's only interested in your work because of it. You open the door to getting some of those people interested in your other work, and you as an artist, by exposing them to more of your work that isn't related to what they were initially drawn in by in terms of subject matter, and you don't chain yourself to only making art within your niche, and instead give yourself the freedom to draw whatever you want for personal enjoyment while still benefiting from all the many pros of having a niche too. That balance, in my opinion, is the best way to approach finding and committing to an art niche. And while I still can't say it would work for everyone since everyone's needs are different, I will say it's the one that I've seen the most artists thrive with. In conclusion, I think finding your art niche is a lifelong journey as an artist that, while beneficial if you find the right one, isn't something you should pressure yourself to rush to do too soon. It's something that you're likely to find naturally through years of experimentation and practice, and the more you rush to find yours, the more likely you are to commit too soon to a niche that might not be the right long-term fit for you for any number of reasons. It may be something that changes over time, too, as your interests, skills, and goals develop and grow, and that's all the more reason to let yourself experiment naturally and do what feels right for you as an artist. Your priority shouldn't be an undying lifelong commitment to one niche to the point that your art serves the niche. It should be to utilize interest in a niche to serve whatever type of art you enjoy the most at that time as best you can. How much you commit to it, too, can be tailored to your individual needs. Industry artists can develop multiple portfolios for multiple specialties, as can freelancers, and social media artists can decide how much niche-related art to post and how much unrelated art to post, based both on their audience's level of interest and, more importantly, their own preferences as artists. Ultimately, finding your art niche, while immensely helpful for some, isn't necessary for others, and will likely end up happening eventually on its own one way or another as you grow as an artist and learn what aspects of art you enjoy the most. There's no reason to rush or force it, and there's every reason to give yourself the freedom to experiment until you figure out what suits you individually best. Because as I keep saying, there is no single answer that works for everyone. I personally haven't found my niche yet, and I'm still very much in the experimentation phase of being a generalist, and I'm happy here for now. Someday, after I've had enough time trying out every specialty I'm interested in, I do hope to settle into a niche. But when I do, it's gonna be one that I'm confident in having found and tried out extensively before committing to. And even then, it won't stop me from drawing what I want on the side, because a niche only has value if you're using it. If it's using you by keeping you chained to it, it's doing you more harm than good. But what do you guys think? What have your experiences been with finding and committing to an art niche? Please feel free to share them in the comments below, as I'd be very interested to hear about it, especially from those of you who have found your niches and have spent significant amounts of time committed to them, as that's not something I personally have experience with yet. Please also feel free to drop any advice that you have to other artists looking to find their own niche or decide whether finding one is right for them at all, because the more advice, honestly, the better. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Special thank you as always to channel members Joseph Solomon, TC Pratt, Zelda Deverak 42, Abyss Reborn, Hierarchy Kyle, Kinka James, Cutie Sailor Lovely, Justice for Asterion, and CP Lil Thing, as well as patrons Batman, Kyle Lowe, Blue Swanson, Cora Fear, Jamisha Walker, Elangshi, Kim Yen, Crazy Asar, Gentong, Grayson Xavier, MG, Blah Mage, TC Pratt, Finn, Grim Spectre, Celine Merriman, Ash, Eldritchia, The Stray Dog, Ulura, Greg Noble, Decagon, Jenny Chan, Captain Reku, Ryan M. Williams, Catbus, Alagrina Mac, Lucy Yamajiki, Selena Beebe, Electa Mike, Pride A, Totally Shogun, Insomniac Sleep Schedule, Lola the Pinky, and Wing Wong, and I'll see you in the next one.